Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It's me, Ronan, making another video, my second video. Just a lot of me rambling. I realize at this point how strange of a process it is to be recording a video with, 0 subscribers, which is totally fine, and literally no watchers. I'm making these videos ultimately for myself. I think, as I stated before, and I'm posting them publicly because maybe they'll help other people. And I do believe I'm a transparent, authentic, vulnerable individual, and I'm comfortable basically talking to a camera like a video diary, and sharing that for anyone who might resonate or be interested. So this is yet another attempt, so I'm just kind of free flowing, as I think I will always do. I feel usually called to make a video. I don't always know what I want to talk about. I generally have like things floating in my head, but not like one specific thing that is pulling at me. And just like a little bit of personal background, today was a really emotional day for me. So, I had my daughter for about 19 hours straight, which is a long stretch of solitude with an almost 1-year-old baby. And while I adore her, obviously, I'm her mother. She's teething, and it can be really, well, anyone that has kids would know, it can be really exasperating sometimes when you're doing it alone, especially in the pandemic of all things. And the teething doesn't make it easier, because oftentimes, if they're upset because it's a diaper, you change it, or they're hungry, you give them a bottle, they're tired, you put them to sleep. But with teething, it's like, here's something to chew on, occasionally some Tylenol if it's really bad, but you kind of just got to deal with it. So knowing that she's in pain sucks and hurts, and also puts me in a lot of pain, I realize, because I am her mom, and I'm also just very empathic, and it's hard to see her suffering. And so I was feeling a lot of emotions this morning, and I had this plan with my sister to go and work on some other projects that we're doing. And I've really had to start taking care of myself, in this past year, like develop the ability to like learn the care and handling of Ronan, and know my boundaries and be willing to enforce them. Because so much of what has happened to me in my life, while I'm not trying to victim blame, and I know this can sometimes be a triggering conversation, so I hope, you understand the way that I'm saying this is very much coming from my own personal experience. But so much of the abuse and trauma that I've suffered, and the victimization, has also been because on some level I haven't been able to enforce my own boundaries. I placed other people's needs, wants, priorities over my own. I abandoned myself oftentimes, and the end result was being abused and used by people that really didn't genuinely have my best interest at heart. So I'm trying to get better about that now, obviously, especially as a mom, because I want to model for her, how to take care of herself, how to recognize, and this has nothing to do with like religious beliefs, but more in a spiritual way, like her sacredness as a human, as an energy being, as a fragment of this oneness that we have all originated from. And, for me, it was always in a very religious context of like, sex is bad, it's a sin, only with your husband, blah, 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 all that stuff. And it never really resonated. So obviously, like, I didn't follow those sorts of things in my life, and, here we are. But as I've come into my spirituality, and I've really come to understand that on this earth, everything is a creation of the Creator, and that in that way, we are all a reflection. We are all a part of God. We are all gods in and of ourselves, So I'm really trying to act accordingly and to put myself first, which I think on some level in our Western society, we're all about individualism, but then we also super shame ourselves to put ourselves first. You're selfish, you're self-centered, you're self-absorbed. There's always those narratives, those words that get pushed on us, especially as women. And so I think it's really courageous and hard to break out of that pattern and be like, you know what, I am going to put me first, and it doesn't make me self-centered. And if it does, why is that a bad thing? I mean, really, at the end of the day, like, what does it matter to you? Like, I am still a caring, loving, helpful individual, but in order to do that, I've learned I've got to take care of me first. So that's a really long way of me saying that, I was supposed to do some other stuff with my sister and I just wasn't feeling it. I was feeling myself like a very big baby that needed to cry and tend to my own needs. And I just had to be like, hey, I can't do it today. I need quiet and solitude and incense and tea and dim lights. Although right now I have them on for, filming this. And just meditation. And that's basically what I'm doing this afternoon, aside from, recording this. And just on another side note, I think it's also important, in not shaming yourself for needing that time, to also be able to recognize where it comes from, because oftentimes that can give you the the justification, I guess, for me, is how it helps. Like, I need to know the source of what is happening. And I know that, on top of the teething, I'm not getting a ton of sleep watching her over the night. I had some really crazy dreams. One very disturbing, violent, sexually assaulty dream that I won't get into, but suffice it to say, it was not a pleasant dream. And one about my aunt who passed away 7 years ago now, almost, and don't dream about her often, super miss her, have a hard time tapping into that grief on like a moment's notice. So whenever I dream about her, it becomes this very triggering event. And I know that in my waking life, it affects me, even though I know it was a dream. Those emotions are still brought up. And so I think being able to correlate all of these different things that happened with the emotions that I'm feeling, it helps to validate, it's not just happening out of nowhere, which I think, I don't know, oftentimes in our society, or in my experience, it's you're making something out of nothing, you're just choosing to be like this. And it's no, there's very real reasons in my mind that I am behaving this way, and it resonates with me, and so that's my justification, and I'm going to do it. So that's where I'm at today. Yeah, and I guess there were several things that I was thinking about talking about, but what really, I guess, came to me more recently, and it was actually thanks to Paul Selig. He is a spiritual leader, I guess I would say. I'm not sure how he terms himself, but he does channel messages from his spirit guides, which, everyone has their own beliefs about that. I'm not personally into channeling spirit guides. I was, and I never really did, but I was okay with it. But now I'm sort of at a place where I only want things to come from me, from, my higher self, and not really from anything external. But I do resonate with him, and I do trust his messages. They've never felt off to me, and he really helps me to expand my mind and my ways of thinking. Sorry, I think my incense is now blowing in the camera because of the heat. It's cold here today, and I'm not a person that likes cold at all. I don't know what planet I came from, but I am a tropical being, and I need 75 and up all the time. I don't mind heat, but give me anything below 75 and I hate life, so I'm indoors. But the thing that he was talking about was about love, and about feeling that love is not present in our lives, when in fact love is all around us. We just choose not to see it for what it really is. We have this sort of definition, this made up idea of love, and then it has to look this way, it has to be in this package, and when it's not, we reject it, and suffering ensues. I mean, I have done that on so many levels, so many times, so many lifetimes. So it really resonated with me. I would recommend you check it out. If you look up Paul Selig on YouTube, it's his latest upload, I believe. I don't remember the name of it. Something to do with understanding love. But really any of his topics are great. And one of the things I want to do on this channel, because I really, no one has the answers, yet everyone does, right? So I'm not all about ooh, come to me, subscribe to me, listen to me. Yeah, do it if it resonates, but I also want to share other great people out there. And if you like them, that's awesome. If not, that's also cool. Maybe you have someone that you think I'd be interested in, and please send them my way. I would love to know, I may or may not resonate. And it really did get me thinking about it, because love is just such a life revolving issue. I can say for myself, when have I never not been thinking about love, especially now, during the pandemic, as a single person that escaped an abusive relationship 9 months ago, and doing this single motherhood alone. Like, I definitely sometimes feel like I lack love, and I definitely want love in my life. And it's hard. It's hard to feel just completely alone. And his talk was really helpful in sort of redefining that love and seeing love for what it is, and in that way sort of knowing that there is so much love present all around us at all times. But what really kind of got me thinking was when he was talking about, if love isn't what we think it is, then what about love that feels abusive? Is that love? Like, what should we do? That kind of thing. To paraphrase, again, I'm not trying to misquote him. I'm just, talking about what I picked up from it. And of course, he and his spirit guides are not condoning, like, staying in an abusive relationship. That's love. It's not that. It was actually the opposite, that loving someone in those situations means having boundaries and loving them from a distance in a way. It's the trying to love them actively in a relationship, forcing them to change when, that's always a futile effort. That is not love. And I can say 100% I'm guilty of that. In my relationship with my ex, with my former partner, my abuser, I 100% stayed in that relationship for 18 months while the abuse was happening from day one, And I think that is, and that has been, and maybe this is true for other victims of abuse, one of the hardest reasons that I've dealt with in, like, wanting to talk about this, because there's so much confusion in my own mind of, like, well, if it was really abuse, like, why did you stay, and that kind of thing. And the truth is, like, it was abuse. And at the same time, I thought it was love, and I thought I knew how to love someone like that. And in thinking I knew how to love someone like that, it was staying and abandoning myself in favor of trying to save another person, which I'm going to tell you definitively 100%. I don't mean to be authoritative, but that never works. Like, you cannot save another person. If you don't know that, I hope that you do learn that, because it's a really important, seems like a really simple, self-evident truth, but it didn't occur to me. I really thought I could help to change this person to be better, to find their humanity, to fix themselves, to stop lying, to stop manipulating, to start caring more about people. And I was sort of making it my personal goal to try to rehabilitate someone that at almost, half a century, 50 years of age, had been repeating this pattern throughout their life, with other people like me, especially as they were getting older, young women like me, so it was very obvious that this person from the beginning was not intent on changing, but I was so naive and my priorities were so out of balance that I was really willing to stick with it. And at one point I was willing to let it kill me, to try to save him. And what ultimately saved me was having my daughter. I wouldn't recommend having a kid just to save yourself, and that wasn't necessarily the conscious decision I was making. But once I had her, and I loved her too, and I love her more and in another different way than I love anyone, I could no longer endure the abuse, because it became very apparent to me in the first 7 weeks of life, without getting into details, but I will share at some point, that the abuse he was giving to me, he was very much going to inflict upon her as well. And while I was willing to, in some ways, withstand the abuse for myself, I could not condone, ignore the abuse that would be given to her. So that was ultimately what helped me to escape and wake up and go, no, maybe you're abandoning yourself, but you're not abandoning her. She's defenseless. She is your child. You have to save her. In this instance, I am saving someone because she is a helpless baby. But yeah, that's what what got me out, you know. And I think the other hard thing about wanting to talk about the abuse and this relationship is the very honest truth that I have, that maybe other people of abuse have. I don't know. I don't know if everyone does, but that I still love my abuser, you know. It's a very hard, complicated, confusing statement to make for me. You know, I'm sure it's probably confusing to you if you're like, wait a minute, this person abused you and you still love them. Like, especially after 9 months of being apart, you know? And I mean, the truth is, like, I love them because I've always loved them, but I love them in a different way now, you know? And like Paul and his guides were saying, it's about creating boundaries. It's about that distance. And I love him now from a distance. I love him now in spite of himself. It was the actively trying to love him and change him that wasn't working for me. But now that I've managed to break away from that, go no contact, you know, block every fake screen name that he makes to try to look at my stuff and lurk at me online. Now that I've made it really clear that, you know, I'm not interested in you anymore, it's really allowed me to feel that love that I still have for him in a safe way, where he can't hurt me and he can't wield that love against me. He can't abuse me with my own love for him, because that love is mine to give, you know? So I took it back, and it still honestly exists for him, because that is just the person I am. I can't say I love every person I've ever dated, but there are probably two, him being one of them, that I will always love. And especially I think for him, and again, I won't say this is in everyone's case, but having a child with someone, for me, it makes it impossible not to love that person, because in not loving him, I mean, he is a part of her, and I love her so much, and how could I deny a part of her? You know, that's just where I'm at. It's not even a choice. It just is. And I've had to accept it, you know, because to deny that love and to fight that love, I mean, that's only going to hurt me ultimately, because I'm trying to squelch something that is so naturally occurring and emanating from within me. So I don't want to do that anymore. You know, I don't want to cause myself any more pain. I want to put myself first. I want to take care of myself and acknowledge my boundaries and engage in self-care. So part of that has been like this radical acceptance, and even being able to publicly put it out there if he were to see it, or one of his cronies, you know, that like, well, I don't want anything to do with him, and I never want to be back with him again or have any kind of relationship with him. Honestly, I will always love him, and I will always want him to do well, and I hope he'll do well, and I hope he will heal, and I hope he will fix himself, because I want that for him, like I want that for anybody. And like I would want that for the father of my daughter, like, because that is who he is to me at the end of the day. And maybe a little more than that, honestly, spiritually, I feel, and maybe this is something I can talk about another time, but that we have known each other in other lives. And I don't know if he's even able to tap into that, because he's in such a narcissistic place of self-denial that he can't even like open up to so many possibilities that exist in this magical world that we live in. So, you know, those are just like the complicated truths of abuse that I won't say everyone experiences, but I think probably other people, not just me, and that make it so hard for victims to come forward and speak, you know? And like I said, like I think I said in the last video, none of this is about cancel culture. I'm not wanting a pound of flesh. I don't want to crucify him. I want to talk about this because it's the truth and it's what happened to me, and I have a right to share it. But in no way am I condoning like, oh, let's go find out who this person is and go attack them and get them fired and blah, blah, blah. No. Like karma is karma is karma. Like he will do what he does and it will come back to him. I don't need to worry about that. I don't need other people to carry out that for me. He will do it all to himself, just like I have done so much to myself in this life. So I really, in trying to heal and forgive and move on, it's coming from a place of love, from a great self-love and genuine love for, I would say, everybody, you know? Maybe I feel the intensity more or less, but I'm trying to work on, you know, in that God modeness, like loving everyone, and even the people that hurt you. terribly, badly, you know? And I think that's a triggering concept for a lot of people. And it's not coming from a place of like, oh, look how evolved I am. I'm so much better. You really don't have to agree with me. I'm not trying to argue with anyone, convince anyone. You know, this is just my truth that I'm sharing, like I said. And if it resonates, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know? So, yeah, I would say check out that Paul Selig talk. That's sort of my take on boundaries, real love, what love really is. Ooh, this incense. Loving from afar, loving from a distance, not needing him in my life anymore, not wanting him in my life anymore, falling in love with other people now, you know, and actually really expanding my idea of love. I think one of the things that was really confusing for me, and something else I can talk about later, in another video, was, you know, he was polyamorous, not even ethically non-monogamous, definitely not ethical. And I had never encountered that before, and it was a very triggering concept for me. It wasn't something that came up in the beginning. It was very much presented to me after I was already like hooked and ensnared, you know, and then it was really scary because my heart was already in it. And so I really tried to open up to the concept, not necessarily that we were being polyamorous, but understanding that this person had polyamorous inclinations, I guess. And I asked, you know, just very bare minimum, which is sad to me now to realize that I was just asking for the bare minimum, and, you know, he couldn't even do that. But I just said, like, please don't, like, cheat on me. Like, if you want to be with someone else, like, just tell me and, like, leave me before it happens. Because I had been cheated on before, and I have cheated on people too. So I'm not trying to come from a place of like, oh, I'm so great. Like, I've been that person, and I've also been on the other side, and I know how it hurts both ways. I know how it cuts both ways, and I don't want to continue that cycle of pain and negativity. And so I just was asking not to be a part of it. And I think it was the fact that he very much consented and was like, oh yeah, of course, I wouldn't do that. I only want to be with you, you know, but that was never the case. He was with everybody else but me in a lot of ways, and convinced me that through gaslighting and manipulation that, you know, I was being insecure and I was not secure in our love, and I didn't trust him. But yeah, I didn't trust him, and it was very much valid because he was entertaining multiple women that he had already been in relationships with, and probably new ones that I don't even know about, and just not being forthcoming about it. And so that was always the thing that made me think, oh, I don't like polyamory or ethical non-monogamy, because, like, that's what it is. But I've really discovered now in my own sort of exploration, meeting people, while I'm not ready to date romantically, I'm really just looking for friendships at this point, that I'm actually not who he convinced me that I was, this insecure person that's so prude and can't do any of that stuff. I just needed to feel safe and secured, and I needed to be respected and be with someone who respected me and I trusted, and wasn't going to abuse me. And I've definitely met people now in the recent past that have been very transparent, and in that transparency, that upfrontness, that honesty, it's allowed me to feel safe and secure enough to explore and allow for a possibility. I mean, it's nothing at this point. I haven't been romantic with anyone, but I'm at least seeing that I'm not that person that he told me that I was, that he tried to convince me that I was. That was just a way to sort of keep me in a bubble, you know, stick to the narrative that he was feeding other people, you know, of why I was so this person and why he had to leave, and, you know, just so many things that covert narcissists will do. You know, they'll have like a propaganda spin campaign about who you are, and you don't even know that they're doing it, you know, because you're so naive to the fact that someone like this even exists. So yeah, I know I covered a lot, and it's like almost 25 minutes long, and I don't want these super long videos. So I'm going to end it here. If you like this channel, like, subscribe, at least like it. Definitely comment if you have something to say. I would love to hear from you. You can email me at theronanelliot@gmail.com. And check out Paul Selig, and I'll be back in a couple days. I appreciate you listening. If you listen this far and watching, it really does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourself.